Big Dumb Movie is a comedic podcast that often contains obscene language and outlandish commentary. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Big Dumb Movie, where we discuss movies of the big dumb variety. I'm your host, Korey, and I'm joined today by my good friend, Jonathan.
Hey, Korey. Thanks for having me back.
Of course, happy to have you. And joining us all the way from the beautiful land of Michigan, the creator of the podcast Spoilers, Pappy.
We are Genie. I have a giant turban on. I would never wear this on Spoilers, but I would wear it on Big Dumb Movie, in case you guys get canceled.
I can't hear you, Pappy.
We are Genie!
And joining us for the first time from the Silver Screen Breakdowns podcast, the fantasy hustler himself, Alex.
Yeah, what is going on, guys? I'm just over here chilling, eating some goat eyes, and ready to talk about Kazaam.
Are they Nubian goat eyes though?
Gotta be. Those are the best in the world.
What's a
man.
Nubian?
I haven't had those in 3,000 days.
Comedy so good in this movie that we reuse it for our podcast. That's how you know we're talking about a quality film. And of course, I'm talking about the only quality film that came out of the year 1996, Kazaam, starring Shaquille O'Neal, directed by Paul Michael Glazer. Now, real quick, I just want to say that we're talking about Kazaam, not to be confused with Shazam, a movie starring Sinbad that doesn't exist. And if you think it does, you're a fucking idiot. I just want to say publicly, I'm done with this fucking Shazam Sinbad conversation. All these fucking idiots online that swear that this movie exists, just like, I don't know, jump in a wood chipper, do something, get off the internet. I'm done with you.
Dude, I jumped down a rabbit hole of YouTube last night. I was watching, like, Shazam news, where it's like someone who's trying to, like, scour the internet for people mentioning Shazam, or it being mentioned in pop culture. It was absurd. Insane.
It's insane. The fact that people think this is real. It's one thing to be like, oh, I think that might be real. And it's another thing to defend it into the ground. I think I uncovered the reason why people think this movie exists, though, Pappy.
Well, they call it the Mandela effect.
I also went down a YouTube rabbit hole. And in 1996, there were two movies that came out by Disney, both starring black men who co-star with a white kid, and they kind of become a fatherly figure to that kid, and some lessons are learned along the way. One of those we're here to talk about today, and that's Kazaam. The other movie is called First Kid, and it stars Sinbad.
Oh. That could be. I remember First Kid.
Yeah.
There's no possible way that anybody confused Kazaam with First Kid.
I think they conflate in your mind if you haven't watched these movies for a long time.
No.
And
never.
I'm going to continue because the VHS tape for Shazam, or God, look at me, I'm doing it. This VHS tape for Kazaam has a trailer for First Kid in front of it, and the VHS tape for First Kid has a trailer for Kazaam in front of it. I'm pretty sure people mix these movies up in their mind.
In First Kid, Sinbad does not wear anything other than a regular suit and then a tracksuit when they go like boxing. So never was he dressed anywhere close.
Well, he wears a tux with a funny tie.
Yeah.
Remember? I'm black and I'm wearing a tie.
Yeah.
At the black tie event.
Yep, the only one with the colored tie.
The whole Mandela effect, Korey, just seems like bullshit. You know, it's like, how many people really remembered Shazam? Or if you frame it like, hey, remember that movie in the 90s, Shazam with Sinbad? Yeah, I guess so. It never existed. You know what I mean? Like, you're like priming the person to think about it before you even ask.
I still have a faint sense of it actually existing. Like, I've been watching these
Get
effects.
the fuck out. No, come back.
He's from another dimension.
Go home. Later.
Glitch in the simulation.
Oh, he left. I don't need him, you know?
I've never seen Shazam, so I never because it doesn't exist, right? So
Right.
I've never once said that I ever remember it or anything. The most that I remember is seeing the pictures on social media where people are saying, I remember this movie. I do not.
Which are mostly stills from like a College Humor video where Sinbad played a genie from 2017. It was an April Fool's joke. It came out on April 1st. People use that as a reference point, which is kind of weird to me. But anyway, don't want to spend too much time on an angry rant. Time to be happy and talk about a movie I love. Well, we'll see.
Duh.
Kazaam, star Shaquille O'Neal. I mentioned that. It got me thinking about athletes in movies, you know? A lot of movies will sometimes try to get a little bit of traction, make a little bit extra money by pulling in a star athlete, even if they can't act, doesn't matter. Sometimes even like a musician, but for the sake of this conversation, I want to keep it to athletes. Alex, the fantasy hustler, maybe you can tell me about some that are noteworthy to you.
Well, I'm just going to give them the best athlete who is an actor right now, and that's The Rock.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Ha! The Rock's laying the smackdown.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I mean, going back to his WWE days, I mean, you see the Scorpion King and all that, not really the best, but gotten a lot better as he made it to the Fast and the Furious world. But The Rock is definitely someone when he was starting off.
So he played that video game character in the Scorpion King in the Mummy Returns?
He always plays the same character. Like, at least that's what it seems. Always just a big bounty hunter, or something, a big cop, or, I mean...
Well, it's funny you mention that because I think one of the earliest roles I remember from him was actually not that. It was from Be Cool. Do you remember the Get Shorty sequel called Be Cool?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
That movie kind of like fell under the radar. Maybe because it didn't quite live up to Get Shorty, which I think was more beloved, debatably. But The Rock was in that movie, and he played a gay bodyguard that wanted to get into Hollywood, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a little bit different. But you're right, generally The Rock is as himself, pretty much.
You know, just to kind of plus one that, I think The Rock in the series on HBO called Ballers, he is such a phenomenal actor in there. It's not like that Fast and the Furious beat 'em up role that he's been playing for so long. You know, it definitely, I think, takes his acting abilities to the next level, and I've really enjoyed that show. So if you haven't watched Ballers, get out there and watch that.
Definitely double down on that. Great show.
It's interesting that you say The Rock because, you know, he's a wrestler, and I'm talking about professional athletes. The wrestlers that go into acting, I think they have a little bit of an edge because wrestling is partly acting, right? So it's not quite the same as other professional sports. I mean, I respect the hell out of it, professional wrestling, to a huge degree. I think more than like your common person that doesn't watch wrestling, but it's almost like a little bit of a cheat answer because, you know, they are actors essentially. But Jonathan, what about you? What would you say?
Oh man, I actually have a wrestler in my top 3 athletes in movies. This one is Andre the Giant in The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie is so fucking stupid, but I always have a soft spot in my heart for that movie.
But it's great.
It is, but it is. It's stupidly great.
At Vicini, he can fuss.
Fuss. Think you like to scream at us?
Probably he means no harm.
He's really very short on charm.
You have a great gift for rhyme.
Yes. Some of the time.
Enough of that! Fuzzy, are the rocks ahead?
If they are, we all be dead.
No more rhymes now, I mean it!
Anybody want a peanut? Yeah!
I also like Bob Uecker in Major League. Little known fact, he was actually a baseball player. And for those who actually know baseball, You have a free pass on this one, Korey. He actually only had like 14 career home runs, and one of them was off of Sandy Koufax, who's an absolute legend in the game of baseball.
The dad from Big Daddy.
Yeah, that's who it is.
Koufax is a good egg. He was nice to that kid. But he fights like a girl.
And then I'm going to go with Mike Ditka from Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell. It's a total guilty pleasure. I can't believe I'm even admitting that I like this movie.
I don't even know this movie.
Oh, dude. Yeah, don't watch it. You're going to probably like it, so...
Don't watch it.
I don't
You're
want
going to probably like it.
Yeah, I don't want to be
said.
responsible for that. Because then you're going to be mad at me that you do like it.
I have enough movies I have to hide from the world, you know?
Yeah, you don't need another one.
Yeah. Pappy, athletes and movies.
So Jonathan actually took the first one I was going to say, which was Andre the Giant. I'll go with another wrestler, though, Dave Bautista. He's been in a lot of fucking good movies. You know, he was in Dune. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, Blade Runner 2049. So he's been great. And then I'm going to go with a second one, which we covered on spoilers. KG, another basketball player in Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
Right.
He was good in that.
He's really good in that, and I think he stays within himself, which I think is sometimes Shaq doesn't do in this movie. Like, there's not a whole scene where KG has a rap song. You know what I mean? Even though, so
for a second there, I thought he was gonna shout out Hulk Hogan in Suburban Commando.
Another classic. But yeah, KG. Basketball players, I think, kind of translate to the best stars, Korey. You know what I mean? In the sense that, like, there's only 5 of them out there at a time, and their face isn't obscured by like a helmet or a hat or anything. So it kind of makes sense that like this has been done a lot with basketball players. Like even like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Airplane, right? Like he's in that movie.
Yeah, he's a pilot.
Mm-hmm. Just makes a lot of sense.
The fact that he was in that movie kind of blows my mind after watching Winning Time. Like there's a huge disconnect for me with that, like with that personality and being in a comedy movie.
Well, he was kind of going through a rough time in 1980. The Lakers were trash at the time. He wasn't winning. I'm pretty sure he was trying to diversify his portfolio.
For sure. You're probably right.
Didn't he do the movie with Bruce Lee around that time too?
He did do a movie with Bruce Lee sometime around then, yeah. That one I could kind of more see, though. My answer for this question that I asked, actually I have 2.
You better not say Space Jam, Michael Jordan.
Fuck no.
And you better not say LeBron and Space Jam.
Oh my God, you're onto something. LeBron James and the Spice Girls, Spice Jam.
Spice Jam World Tour 2026.
Sounds like the sequel to Dune, Spice Jam.
Yeah. So I just found out recently, semi-recently, that Carl Weathers was a professional athlete.
Oh, yeah.
He played for the Raiders.
Yeah.
I'm sure Alex knows this since the Raiders are local to you, I guess, now that they're in Vegas. They're in Vegas, right?
Yep.
So you know about sports.
I'm going to give you another one, too. I wanted to see if any of you guys got this. But Sloth from the Goonies, his real name, John Matizak. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. He was actually the #1 overall pick in the NFL 1973 and a 2-time Super Bowl champ with the Raiders.
Damn, they just paid him in Baby Ruths or what? Just like, there you go, bro. All the Baby Ruths you can eat.
Pardons. And now, the final crowning touch to this cake. Take about a spoon of
He's like the Forrest Gump out on the field. They're like, just run.
Hey, do you guys remember that other football player, O.J. Simpson? The guy who was in the car chase?
Oh, the famous murderer?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he was a professional athlete too. Yeah.
O.J. Simpson killed somebody? What?
Yeah.
When did this happen?
The famous non-murderer, remember?
Yeah, right.
That's right.
The glove didn't fit, bitch.
A jury of his peers.
Hey, can I give a quick runner-up, though?
Yeah.
Dan Marino, Ace Ventura.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
He's so bad in that movie, though.
Awful. But he made out with Einhorn.
Got any more of that gum, Ace? That's none of your damn business, Dan.
You're a weird guy, Ace. Weird guy.
Oh my god. He's so bad in that movie. It's ridiculous. But that's kind of what you see more commonly with these professional athletes in these, especially these 90s movies. They're just like, it doesn't matter. We just want to have your name in there, you know? Maybe we'll put you on the poster or something. Here's my other one. This is my number 2. A guy that I'd never heard of called Cam Neely. Do you guys know who Cam Neely is?
Sounds familiar.
I thought you were going to say Cam Newton.
He's a professional hockey player, or he was. Bruins, I guess. He was Seabass in Dumb and Dumber.
Well,
No way.
That dude was a
so
professional
funny.
hockey player.
That's awesome. Well, if that's Seabass over there.
Kick his ass, Seabass!
I couldn't remember his name, but he was actually like really legit, like one of the best power forwards of all time, apparently.
Damn, really? And he's looking for a good time in men's bathrooms at truck stops, apparently. No big deal.
Apparently, he gets knocked out pretty fucking easily for a hockey player. Dude. He got knocked out by a bathroom stall door.
He's tough, but he's got a glass jaw. Yeah, like he can't.
Apparently.
He can't take a stall door to the head. Like one too many concussions. Like that probably killed him. Like
Poor guy.
I got one more, another football player.
all right.
The love of Mary's life in Something About Mary, Mr. Brett Favre.
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Another awful, awful actor.
So horrible.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're in the right mindset now to talk about Kazaam, as I mentioned, starring one of the I don't know, is it fair to say one of the biggest names in NBA history, Shaquille O'Neal?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Literally, big guy.
Yeah. I mean, this guy was a big deal for a long time, even before he was winning championships with the Lakers, right, Jonathan?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he is still considered one of, if not the most dominant player in basketball. I mean, I was listening to some stats the other night, and then in one of their championship runs, Shaq was averaging like 35 points per game, and Kobe was averaging like 15 a night at that time.
That's
Like,
insane.
dude. That is extremely insane. Like, he changed the game of a big man's role in basketball.
Like the strong center, like just like pushing everyone out of his way, like mowing through people.
Dude, being from Indiana, Corey, I like to watch basketball highlights late into the night from YouTube, and my favorite one is young Shaq highlights, because he was so fucking athletic. Like, you don't even realize like how a person that big could move that nimbly. Now his game like obviously changed a little bit, but it makes sense, right, that he would translate into this star, like big dude, athletic dude, big personality. I think everyone loves Shaq.
He's the reason that they changed the basketball backboards from being glass, like tempered glass, to another, like, I don't know, probably a polycarbonate type material so that they didn't shatter anymore. Bet you didn't know that, Corey.
Because he was breaking them all the time?
Yeah.
The term breaking boards came from Shaq, because he would literally try to pull down the entire hoop every time he dunked it. So yeah, there's so many highlights just on YouTube of him just bringing the house down.
Another thing about Shaq, Corey, is like he must have literally the highest Q score of like any professional athlete, like likability rating, because he's been in approximately 10,000 different commercials in my lifetime, and still to this day he's in so many commercials.
Yeah. I think Michael Jordan kind of started that like commercialism of like superstar athletes, right? Or maybe it's just because that's like when I was a kid and I became aware of it. But Shaq definitely fit nicely into that as well, right? Like he's a likable dude, he's a amazing superstar player. And of course, you know, they can use him in other things, commercials, movies, cameos, all that stuff. Video games. I don't know if you guys remember a game called Shaq Fu.
Oh, yeah.
Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Not a good game, but it existed.
I think he just really understood that his body was not going to hold up to the level of performance that he wanted to be at as long as he wanted to be at. And as a very well-educated college man, he knew that he needed to diversify into other income sources, and so he took every opportunity that would come his way. And now look, I mean, the guy is just unbelievably loaded. He's got tons of restaurant franchises all over the US.
He always got paid in equity. Like, he didn't like want cash for like the endorsements that he would do. He would want like stock in the company, and like just holding that for so many years, you know? Like, everyone loves Shaq.
And he's like part owner of Reebok now, you know, and he had his Reebok shoes, and now he's one of the major stakeholders in Reebok.
Shaq single-handedly is the reason that Papa John's Pizza is continuing to be a success today after the former Papa John was removed.
See, I thought it was the memes
office.
that kept Papa John's going.
No, I mean, he went in there and was like, look, I have a couple of demands to make this work, and we'll make the company, you know, reshape. And he was like, look, you don't have a single black person on your board of directors. You've got 20 board of directors here, and you're all white guys. Like, get some color in here. So he put himself onto the board of directors.
Oh, that's what you meant by diversify.
Yeah, there you go.
Especially after those Papa John's tapes comes out. That was very necessary.
Exactly. He wanted to be involved in all of the commercials going forward, and then he got like 50 franchises or something. And I mean, the company's existing today.
Is that where the Shaq like shoulder dance meme comes from? A Papa John's commercial?
That's exactly where it comes from. What they did was they came to him with a script and were like, here, this is what we want to do. And he's like, that's fucking trash, dude. And just went in and was like, I'm going to start talking about the pizza and I'm going to start doing shit. Just record me and make a commercial out of it. And then they got all kinds of footage and just found a gold commercial.
I noticed he didn't use that same line of reasoning when they handed him the Kazaam script.
Definitely not.
Which kind of brings me into a question I have for you, Jonathan.
Okay.
How the hell was this movie made?
Well, funny you ask. You know, we know Steve isn't here, who normally handles this role. So I'm going to take my best crack at it. So bear with me, okay? So Kazaam is... I guess they're qualifying it as a musical fantasy comedy.
Yeah, it's a regular Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, it's way up there, right? So it was directed by Paul Michael Glaser, who you mentioned already. And if anybody recognizes him, he was the Detective Starsky from the original Starsky and Hutch in the 70s. Because all of us watched that, right? Fucking trash. All right, you know what? I'm never going to do Steve's bit any fucking justice, okay? Let's just be honest here. Who the hell cares how this movie was made? The budget was probably ridiculous. The product placement in this movie was ridiculous. The story was ridiculous. The acting in the script was even worse. It was a dog shit movie made for one thing. It was a cash grab because aside from Michael Jordan at the time, Shaq was probably the biggest sports superstar on the planet in 1996. Plain and simple. It was a trash ass movie with trash ass actors to try to make a few bucks, but it exists. We loved it as kids. We watched it again 25 years later. Here's our review. Take it away, Kylo.
All right.
Okay, I did a little bit of research, and I saw that like this is going to bring the tone down a little bit, but it makes a lot of sense that Paul Glaser, his wife died of AIDS after giving birth to their son in a blood transfusion, and he was kind of just like not super into his work at the time, and he took his son to the NBA All-Star game, and Shaq's people were like, hey, do you have any movie parts for Shaq? And he just said, yeah, Shaq should play a genie. And Touchstone wanted to compete with the Michael Jordan movie, so this like got rushed into production. Like they only had like 10 weeks to make it, basically, because of the NBA schedule. And like that just informed so much about the movie that it was like rushed in a copycat and not really thought through as a story.
That does bring things down a little bit, Pappy.
It's super sad, but I mean, it makes sense. Like,
Well, Pappy, I do want to bring it back to you, actually, to take us directly into Kazaam. Can you tell us how Kazaam opens up?
So Kazaam opens up, the very first thing we see, which I don't even know why this is necessary, is we see how Shaq came to inhabit a boombox. There's some old building, and it's getting demolished, and he's in a lamp, and it gets knocked over, and his spirit enters the boombox, which I thought Shaq was saying that he was been in all these other kinds of objects. Like, how did he end up back in a lamp? I don't really know. But we also meet Max, who he's not your typical 90s kid, Korey. He's got a little bit more attitude than a normal 90s kid in this role.
Yeah, they really wanted to make him as unlikable as possible, I think.
Mm-hmm. He talks back, he skips class. Not a good kid.
Before we bash too many things in this movie, I want to say that I don't think the kid, the actor, is the problem with this. I think the problem with Max is the character as he's written, which is to be very unlikable almost the whole movie. And the direction, the way he's told to portray the unlikability factor, right? So I think the kid himself is fine. And you guys might disagree with me on that. I think it's what he's told to do and how he's told to do it.
From now on, you're gonna come home from school and you're gonna start doing chores.
Chores?
Yes, chores.
What do you mean chores? Milk the cows, feed the chickens? I don't get it.
Max, this is exactly the thing that is really putting me over the edge.
Wait a minute. Forget chores. What we mean is we want to help you. Now, we're going to get you a tutor, and I'd like to start picking you up after school.
He's not picking me up at school. I don't have to listen to you, all right? You're not my father. You will never be my father.
You watch your mouth.
Watch yours. You lied to me. You told my father wasn't here, but he is. I've seen him.
What do you think of Max, Jonathan?
I think Max, his fucking snaggletooth. Like, why do we keep doing movies about kids with these like messed up teeth? You know?
Ugliest kids we do podcasts on together.
I swear.
I knew that wouldn't get by you. Dude. Yeah, the tooth. I knew Jonathan would.
This kid is literally 2 Birkenstocks away from being like an all-natural, unshaven OnlyFans account. Like, it's disgusting, dude.
What kind of OnlyFans do you subscribe to?
Not those, dude. Not those. I don't know, man. I don't understand what the deal was in the 90s with picking like really ugly kid actors.
It wasn't always, but it was sometimes, sure. I think they were going for like a regular looking kid.
So regular kids are ugly? Like, I don't know, man.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, you and I were regular kids and we were not that ugly.
I was a handsome boy, yeah.
Yeah, you were a fine piece of ace.
I know, I had to turn you down more than one time. Max is like a different kind of 90s kid. He's not the new kid in town, which is something you see a lot of. He's a cool 90s kid. He's the class clown. You know, he walks down the hallway when, you know, class is in session, I think to mostly ditch, but they got Coolio playing while he's walking to kind of give him like a little bit of an urban cool vibe. He keys lockers for no reason, so he's kind of a bad kid.
Yeah, this kid is just screaming psychological issues, right? Like, he's so traumatized that, like, he didn't have a dad growing up. Like, he just oozes out, like, I just need a dad to give me a hug.
Yeah, very much so. I think you're right. They are setting that up pretty strongly because the father figure theme is very prevalent in this movie. And you're right. His character yearns for it.
He yearns for it?
Yes.
Why is it every 90s movie, though, the kids are divorced? Like, you're right, like, he's a different kind of 90s kid, but it's the same 90s kid story. Like, every movie, the parents are divorced. It feels lazy.
That's probably when the divorces just started spiking like crazy.
Probably.
During the 90s. Seems like everyone who was married, you know, before 1989, let's just say, it just seemed like their marriage lasted forever. Maybe kids could relate to it.
Parents finally realized that maybe staying together for the kids wasn't the right choice.
So to me, Max is like So he's super cool amongst like the 7th graders is what it seems, you know, in his class. But then like to the 8th graders, he's just a little scrub who gets punked all the time. So I think that's really what it is. He wants to be cooler than how he actually is to the entire world. I mean, because it seems like that class, he's the superstar, but literally 5 feet outside of the class is getting punked and spray painted on the ground and getting jacked for his lunch money.
I'd beat his ass for wearing a fishing vest to school too. You little fucking greaseball, dude.
What the fuck is he wearing in this movie?
I tell that kid to go blow his nose, man. Like, he sounds like he's had a sinus infection for 6 months.
Like Omri?
Oh, dude. Just like Omri, man, from Indian in the Cupboard.
What a rookie move by the teacher to give the class clown the key to the fucking supply closet and send him out in the hallways to roam. Like, okay, come on. That's teacher 101.
Another alien abduction, Maxwell.
They want him out to globes, but they didn't get a thing.
The key to the supply closet, Maxwell.
The key?
To the supply closet.
Oh, I left it in the door, Mrs. Duke.
And you also left us without enough time to hear your little presentation. But I want to hear it anyway, right here after school.
That teacher is an old school, no bullshit, New York City, black, heavyset woman. Like, I would not fuck with her and break her rules by any means.
No, that's the teacher you don't fuck with.
Right. And like, but why would she give this kid the key? Like that, I'm with you on that one, man. It makes no sense.
She did have a momentary lapse of judgment there.
Maybe she said, "Get this fucking kid out of my class before I murder him." You know, she's like, "I'm about to catch a case, dude. Get this kid out of here."
Yeah, that could have been his punishment, right? Going to the supply closet because she literally didn't want to yell at him anymore.
Oh man.
I mean, we talked about Max's bullies a little bit. He does have bullies that are constantly on his case. One of which is Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. I'm sure you guys recognized him.
Oh, yeah.
He's pretty mean in this movie. Not exactly class president material, I'd say.
If you vote for me, all of your wildest dreams will come true.
But, Alex, maybe you can talk about what kind of goes down with Max and this group of bullies.
So, just like you said, he's walking through the halls, keying the lockers, like, you know, clowning one of his friends who's in class, and then he just gets snatched just real quick. We don't even know what's going on. Gets pulled into the bathroom, thrown on the ground. They're like spray painting his like chalk outline, you know, like they do when someone dies with the and the police come find him. And yeah, the first thing they say is does a dork on the ground have enough money, or some kind of line like that. And it's Pedro, $2.70. We're gonna be living large off of this. And for whatever reason, it comes back into play where Max is already trying to look too cool. He makes up this story. I don't even know what it is. Like, yeah, you guys want a real score? Like 5th and Broadway, you know, Locker 882, Rolexes, you know, who knows what, all types of cash.
Jewels.
No idea how this story even gets believed, but Pedro obviously believes him. He hits him with the big L, loser. That was one of the funny parts. That was Pedro right there in full force.
This is nothing but lunch money.
It's a math problem. If we took all the dough from a dork on the floor, would it be enough? $2.70. We're gonna be living large on this.
If you guys want a real score, it's the wholesale mart. 5th and Broadway. Rolexes, gold chains, who knows what. 3rd aisle, locker 882. Upstairs. And all you need is this. We'll be in touch.
Later. Loser.
Come on, man.
So, like, this group of bullies, they're, like, aspiring young, like, thieves? Like, they want to, like, score a big heist? Like, what is this?
They're just looking for one last job so they can retire.
They're trying out for the Foot Clan.
Yeah, it's something like that, you know, like in New York, there's all these little crews, and, you know, like all the OGs, they always got, you know, some young teenagers who are on the crew robbing and, you know, pillaging, whatever. And that's what I assume is that they're the 14-year-olds who are just jacking money to bring back to the crew.
All right, we take this kid's lunch money and then we do the Lufthansa heist next weekend. It's going to be great.
And that's pretty much it with him. As soon as he gives them the key to the supply closet, they take off. Pedro hits him with the loser in the L, and that's all we see of them. And then he goes back to class, gets in trouble from the teacher, doesn't have the key to the supply closet. And because he was outside of class, he was supposed to give some oral report or something. That's why he was actually messing around and ditching class. And then he ends up getting detention because they didn't get to hear the oral report.
And Pappy, I want to toss to you to maybe, we can cover this maybe once or twice, but Max's home life.
Yeah.
He lives with his mom. His dad isn't around. Maybe you can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I'll bring the AIDS and the divorced parents to the discussion today.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, the first 10 minutes of this movie are like pretty cynical. There's not, like you said, there's no likable characters really. Everyone's just kind of yelling at Max. Everyone's up to hooliganism. Like, even like the city that they live in, or like the area that they live in, seems pretty rough. Like, they don't actually get robbed, but she mentions that they get robbed. She's dating a new guy, Max's mom, whose name's Travis O'Neal, and the fact that they give him the last name O'Neal is so confusing. I don't know why they made that decision. It seems really weird, but he's probably the most likable guy in this movie, but Max isn't taking it very well, and that might be at the root of why he's been acting out a little bit recently.
Yeah, he does have a cool stepdad, I think. This guy, like, he wants to be nice to Max. He's a New York firefighter, so I mean, Max is just basically being a little shit. He's an angry little kid. Wouldn't you say, Jonathan?
Oh, for sure, man. And I can kind of relate to this because, like, my son is not my biological son. So we've had to go through some things, especially now that he's starting to go, he's 11 and a half. He's starting to kind of figure life out a little bit, He's like, hey, I got 2 dads in my life. And, he mentioned the other day, like, Father's Day is coming up. Should I hang out with you? Should I hang out with my dad? I was like, look, man, you got to make your own choices. Like, I'm not here to replace your dad, but I'm here to help guide you the best that I can. Right. And so I kind of understand exactly where Travis is coming from in this movie. And I can see where Max is being a little shithead because he just doesn't want to go along with it, or just resents the fact that there's this new person. But I kind of don't understand because his dad was never around anyways. His dad's been gone for 10 years,
Since he was 2. He doesn't remember.
Yeah,
right.
He doesn't know his dad. Like, you want to be mad for no fucking reason? Sounds like you're just being a little piece of shit. Like, because you want to be, but using your lack of a father as an excuse.
Max, Travis and I want to get engaged.
I thought he was just coming over for ribs.
We wanted to wait till all of the papers were signed.
Papers?
The divorce papers. There were some things left unsigned by your father.
My father? But I thought you didn't know where he was.
I didn't.
Listen, Max, what matters now is you and your mom can move on with your lives. That's why we want to get engaged.
Wait, what about me? Why didn't you ask me?
Max.
What about me?
Max.
Korey, can I put on my Stevie hat and tell you something that would make this movie way fucking better?
Yeah.
The last wish should have been used to, like, save his stepdad from, like, the fire or something. You know what I mean? Because that, like, the whole movie is about him coming to terms with this arrangement, basically, right? And, like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, the dad that he does have, I'm with you, Jonathan. I don't know why he cares so much about this guy. He's never met him. He's never seen him, even.
Yeah, like, literally at the end of the movie, it's a be kind to strangers, like,
right.
It's pretty much like him just being like a super rebel. Right. And I mean, going back to him being a little shit, like, even when his mom says that they were robbed, he was like, Mom, what kind of maniac would steal a motor to a Hoover? He's the one who stole it. Like, he's using it at his outside, that oasis that he has or whatever, like that's probably what he's using that motor for somehow.
That's another thing that really bothers me about this movie is, like, he's kind of like this like mechanical genius kid. You know what I mean? He's making all this shit. Like he makes that cool sky in his room, but the movie doesn't fucking do anything with it. You know what I mean? It's just there in the background. He doesn't like use his skills to like figure out a problem.
It's completely irrelevant to the story at large. Yeah. But it's like Steve said, to quote Steve from the Little Monsters episode, kids are always engineers in 80s and 90s movies. Like, it's just a
so
thing
true.
that goes along with the movie. They can build shit. End of story.
Alternate theory. He's a tweaker. He's just taking all kinds of shit apart because he's got a bunch of unfinished electronics in his room.
Yeah, phone chargers.
Yeah, right?
That's why his teeth are all jacked, right?
Yeah. When you walk into the room, you get that scene, you clearly see the vacuum motor just up and on its end right there. So what the fuck is he doing with it? Taking everything apart just to be a little douchebag? Nah, man, it's deeper. He's on some shit, dude. He needs to do something.
He's looking for that lost boulder. He's still looking for it from 2 years ago. That shard that fell out of his sack.
Seriously.
Yeah.
New York is the city that never sleeps.
Right. And then I think that's how we get his like little hideaway clubhouse lair, that he has that big throne and a bicycle track and lights and like all kinds of shit.
He lives at the Foot Clan hideout, basically, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, he doesn't live there, but this comes up later in the movie. He has this whole fucking hangout spot that's just his, I think. Maybe he shares it with other people. I feel like people would just show up there, right? And like sleep there. Like
it's got to be like just an abandoned building. And if he's got access to it and had enough time to build everything that he's built there, then other people should probably be living there also.
Right. One day he's going to go there. It's going to be a total hobo camp.
Right.
But Jonathan, the bullies do catch up with Max after he like runs away out of his apartment screaming like, "What about me?
Yeah.
You never asked me." Whatever the fuck.
I want my daddy.
He's moping, right? And the bullies find him because he gave them, of course, a fake story about the heist that they wanted to pull off so badly. So they want revenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I will give this kid credit for being quite the extravagant storyteller. Like, he sure has that, like, quick New York mentality of, like, being able to come up with a bullshit story on the spot to get out of any situation.
All tweakers do.
Right?
Yeah.
So, again, further proves my theory here.
Yes.
So apparently one of the bullies is a little bit older, maybe like 16 at least, because they have a truck, they have a car, and tracked him down. And then they started running and chasing him. And I never understand why, except for in movies for dramatics, somebody runs into a building and their instinct is just to go to the top floor. Like, why run up and up and up and up? Because you only have one choice, which is to go down. So you could chase the kid or just wait, because he's got to come down eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's such a stupid move. I mean, unless you have, like, you know, a zip line up there from one building to the other, or
I could see this kid having that, actually. They could have probably implemented that. But you're right. It's a stupid movie trope thing. Did you hear the bullies say they want to put this key in his ass?
Yeah.
I don't blame them, dude. They wasted their time. They probably took a lot of taxi money to go down to 5th and Broadway.
That's too far. Punch him in the face, leave it at that.
Which they ended up doing.
And they only gloss on it for a second because you never really understand why, you know, the bullying. I mean, I always thought, you know, 8th graders versus 7th graders or something like that. But you hear him say, "You messed with my little brother." And so we don't know the extent of how he messed with them, but there's something else for why they hate him.
They're also at that age where a lot of kids just kind of say things thinking that they're really tough, you know, using terminology and language that they don't really know.
You messed with my family.
Right. And like literally all he did was like, you know, lie to the little brother or something.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And like, "You fucked with my whole family. I'm going to shove this key up your ass."
It's like, the only appropriate method of revenge.
It's
an eye for an eye.
It's like a a 12-year-old cussing and using insults like that is like the equivalent of a person who doesn't speak English as a first language trying to cuss at somebody, you know, like, hey man, fuck your ass, you know,
fuck your ass, fuck your ass,
fuck your bitch ass, you know, like, I don't know. I feel like there's kind of in that same text, like you feel something and you want to express it, but you don't really know how to put it into the right context yet. That's a 12-year-old, you know. So I don't know. I guess I kind of took that key up your ass thing kind of with a grain of salt.
12-year-old rage, yeah. Doesn't really make sense. I understand what you mean, though.
I understand. You're messing with my little brother.
Don't tell me. They couldn't fit the key in the lock?
There were no lockers, Max.
And your map was crap. So there's only one place? This thing's gonna fit. And it ain't Mrs. Duke's supply closet.
I want to take a quick second to talk about something that comes up in a lot of movies. And this is kind of like slowly becoming my dream role in a movie. Whenever there's like little kids bullying another little kid, there's like some guy, some like worker, like with a cigarette in his mouth, like, and he's like, hey, what are you kids doing over there? I want to be that guy in a movie. If anyone listens to this and is a filmmaker of some kind and you need a guy to be the, hey, what are you kids doing over there guy? Like, I really want to be that. I've been working on it. You know, I think that would be the perfect role for me in a movie. I just love that guy that's always like, hey, what are you kids doing over there?
While you're like sweeping up the sidewalk in front of a shop.
Yeah. They get scared and run like he's a cop or something, asking what they're doing while they're about to jump this kid. It's just like, two workers in the alley or something.
But Pappy, maybe you can take us through what happens next. The bullies, they chase down Max, and it leads them to one of the higher stories of an abandoned building, right?
Mm-hmm. So, like Jonathan said, for some reason, Max decides to run to the only place where he won't have a possible escape. The floor gives out, and Max somehow survives his fall and doesn't get like tetanus from all of the nails that he's fallen on.
What is he like? Is he like four floors or 6 floors up or something?
I think it's at least 6 or 4. Okay. He falls for a while, it feels like. But when he falls, he hits the magical boombox, which our friend Shaq now inhabits. And Shaq's first appearance in this movie, it's a lot of rhyming. I don't know if you want to like get into Shaq now, but he seems to use magic to defeat the kids, which he says later that he can't show magic to anybody. I don't know. But like Shaq shows up and he's a big presence in this movie. It's like, okay, this is what we've been waiting for.
Who dare to wake me? Ain't gonna make this a mystery. Don't wanna do time on your wishes 3. Watch it, boy. You don't wanna diss me, or I'll dish out my misery. Now, who's that sorry wannabe that disturbed my Z's?
Hey, how convenient in the basement that there were just thousands and thousands of like wadded up newspapers down there.
Yeah. And not rusty nails or boards
or broken bottles.
Yeah.
The guy went through
syringes.
4 floors. Like, you're telling me that his tiny little like 90-pound body broke all of those floor joists? Like, come on. The floor must have been already kind of like dug out or opened up for a trash chute, maybe.
Yeah. How come sometimes this kid can fall down like a large, like, you know, several stories? Sometimes he can live and sometimes it kills him. You know, what's up with that? I think there's inconsistencies with this kid falling down and whether he comes out unscathed or completely dead. But more on that later, I guess.
I've got a theory about that. We'll save it all the way until the end when we talk about the final couple scenes. But yeah, that big pile of trash, you know, like it could totally like just make sure that you get no bumps or bruises or even hurt falling 4 stories.
Yeah, I guess it depends what kind of trash you got.
There's only a couple of times where I feel like this movie pulls off what it's going for. I think it is a little creepy when he's like waiting in the basement and he hears the steps coming down and he accidentally kicks the boombox. I think it's like one of the few times it's working okay. But like, Korey, you mentioned this is going to be a musical. And I was talking about how Shaq is like rhyming all of his words. Like, why is that not a rap? Like, you know what I mean? Like in Aladdin, when Genie shows up, he has a big song. Like, I don't know. It feels like that should have been a song or something.
Oh, the famous Will Smith song from Aladdin?
Right, exactly. Yeah. The Guy Ritchie Aladdin.
If you want to be number one, I'm sorry, boy, that's been done. But if you got the itches for a sack of riches, don't matter how avaricious, I'm the man that could grant your wishes. Hey, don't turn your butt on me. I'm the man of the ages. Straight out the pages. Hang on, I'm contagious, outrageous, spontaneous. You can't contain this. I am Kazaam.
Well, I'm really happy for you.
Where do you think you're going? Make your 3 wishes and I'm out of your face. Back in my box and out of this place.
Listen, Mr. Psychopathic Dork in the basement, I don't think you're ordering anybody.
You realize who I am? I'm your genie.
In that case, I wish I was as big as you, but not so stupid.
That's not a wish. That's an insult.
Yeah, I mean, they're setting up some things, right? There's a little bit of breadcrumbs in terms of what Shaq as Kazaam is going to be like, right? Rhyming, I guess, is sometimes a big component of his speech, like selectively. It definitely is here when we first see him. And then later on, it kind of immediately rises him to superstar fame within this little pocket of New York. Alex, I wanted to toss to you, though. What do you think about Shaq as Kazaam?
Well, I mean, he does the job. He does the justice. He's kind of supposed to be annoying with his rhymes, and so much so that Mac even has to tell him later, stop rhyming. It's like messing with my head. And he does a good job. I mean, he's supposed to be a goofy role, totally a goofy role. I don't know if he's a better genie than, you know, let's say Robin Williams, but I think he's a close second.
You know, Al, I'm getting really... I don't think you're him.
Tonight, the part of Al will be played by a tall, dark, and sinister, ugly man.
I'm trying to think of like other genies, and I can't really think of any, but I feel like the genie in the lamp thing came up a few times in the 90s, you know? I think there was like a Disney Channel original movie related to this same concept. I don't know. It was a thing that happened for a little while.
He's kind of like in between Shaq, cool, nice guy, and then the Robin Williams genie, right? Because there's a couple of moments where his magic is kind of manic, like when he's in the shower or something. Like that feels like something that the Robin Williams genie would do.
Yeah. I think like that whole section of the movie is like kind of like what I remember when I think of Kazaam, like that area of like him showering and him like playing goofy with Max a little bit later on. I think that's like meant to encapsulate like their relationship.
'Cause I am Kazaam. I'm more than I seem. You are looking at the dream. In your coffee, I'm the cream.
Get off me, you pervert! Ow! You smell like hippopotamus butt.
Damn. Being a guy. Being a guy.
I think that also represents a lot more of Shaq's just natural personality.
True, yeah.
Like him just being a fun guy and enjoying the time on the set rather than being forced to conform to a very specific role that he needed to fulfill. He was just kind of like, here's your props, kind of like, let's see what you can do. Have some fun. You know, what would you do in this situation? He'd be like, well, I'd use my magic powers to, tie his shoelaces when he doesn't know. This is the only
and
time
Charles Barkley shows up like, well, I can't understand what you're saying, Shaq.
This is the only time in the existence of Shaq's career that like you can actually understand the words that he's saying.
Yeah. Well, like, you know, as he's gotten older, I think and plus if you're doing like sports commentary, I don't think you necessarily have to bring the A-game charisma necessarily, right? So when he's talking about like a basketball game, he's just more Yeah, so like they did this.
He's more there just to talk shit to Chuck than he is to talk about the game. Calling Chuck a fat piece of shit every other week.
That's why I say I need to see the severity of the strain. The severity. I'd like to see some type of. Yes, I need to see. I need to see documents. Documents. You don't know the difference between a CAT scan and cat food. Come on, man. Come on, man. That fat ass always talking about food. Okay, come on, man. All right. She's talking about food. Yeah, like he's.
We're gonna bounce around a little bit because there's a few things that happen in terms of story, but one of the big moments is when Kazaam reveals his true power to Max. Because at first he can't really do it. He's a little rusty. Max asks for some fancy car that I'm sure Jonathan remembers.
Yeah, it's a Jaguar Black XKE.
Is that a good one?
I'm not a Jaguar kind of guy,
Okay.
but sure. I mean, as a kid, that probably sounded really impressive.
It did, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still impressed by that. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but it's probably something really badass.
Yeah.
Make a wish, please.
Okay. All right, okay. Give me a car. Black Jaguar XKE.
Yes! Jaguar Black?
XKE.
Jaguar Black, better stand back. I am Kazaam! Jaguar Black, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kazaam!
Okay, well, you just stay here. I'm gonna go now.
But he can't do that at the time it was asked. So, he kind of like stalks Max. He follows him around. He's not very sneaky, obviously, a man his size. But they do eventually make their way to Max's, Legion of Doom style Foot Clan lair with like the bank ramps and stuff. Jonathan, this is where like his true powers are revealed and Max finally gets it. Like it clicks with him. Like this guy is a genie.
Yeah, so we're definitely skipping over some major plot points right here, but this scene it is really kind of cool because from a kid's perspective, and I think this movie came out when we were 10?
Yeah.
So we're like, oh man, Max is a couple years older than us. Look at what he's got. He's got this really cool hideout. He's all to himself. He's got this this throne with lights on it and a bike track, and there's just so much coolness, and I want that factor.
Yeah.
I want to be that kid. I remember watching this movie the very first time, and it was just mind blowing that this kid had somewhere to go that was all by himself and nobody was fucking with him, and he could just do whatever he wanted. He didn't have parents following him around. I mean, shitty parents now. Go back and think about it. Well, shitty one parent, I guess. But now I get it as an adult. She was working 2 jobs to make ends meet as a single parent. She couldn't watch him. She had to just trust that he was gonna live.
Yeah, but you're right about the child fantasy element, right? A lot of these movies, you're meant to look at that and be like, I want that. I want to be able to do that. I want what he has. And I think that's especially true with this set. And that's probably, why it was made the way it was.
So how come you didn't tell him who you were?
What do you care?
Who says I did?
Why don't you just leave me alone?
Is that a wish?
Is that all you care about?
Look, little fart. You called me into this mess of a world.
I didn't call anybody, all right?
You parked the box, so make a wish. Wish for a castle, fancy chariot. I don't care what you do. I gotta obey the rules. I can't show my match to anybody but you, and I can't get back into my box until you make your 3 wishes. Now deal with it.
You with this!
Hey! My turn.
He gets the stupidest wish fulfilled here. Dude, the candy / pizza / burrito rain. That's ultimate wish fulfillment, right? For a kid.
Yeah, what a waste, man. What a waste.
Dude, it's nothing but wasted wishes. They're all wastes.
He could have... Yeah, all 3 of them were a waste. Yeah, seriously. But this one, he could have fed I don't know, half of of Brooklyn homeless population with this what was in this warehouse.
Come on, boy. You're not gonna die. Open your eyes. Don't ask why. Just give it a try.
Then I wish I had junk food from here to the sky.
Why not? Higher than high? Then you got junk food from here to the sky. I am Kazaam!
That's it? A Happy Meal?
I mean, it just started like hamburgers and bean and cheese burritos, and conveniently, all the burritos every time they fell would bust wide open. Like somebody doesn't know how to wrap burritos for sure.
You're saying yours that you wrap them so well if they fall from the sky they stay intact?
Probably better than those.
Okay.
Yeah.
This man can wrap a burrito. Alex, what do you think about the first wish?
Well, I mean, the first wish, obviously pretty lame because he didn't think it was a real wish. But this is where all the hobos would come in afterwards. You notice they never go back. You know, there's a bunch of hobos who definitely discovered this place with pizzas to the sky.
Oh, yeah, it becomes overrun.
You know, and junk food all over the place. Yeah, so everything got wasted. You know, like that was one of the things that sucked about it. He didn't bring any home or any with him. And yeah, big waste of a first wish, that's for sure.
Yeah. One of the other things too is right before the wish actually was granted, Max still kind of didn't believe that Kazaam was the genie, and he kind of started like, I don't know, beefing with him a little bit, you know? And then he tried to like run over this 7'2", 300-pound guy with his little bike. Like really, like Kazaam could have just like kick him over, you know, and like
he'd fall over like Joe Biden. Yeah,
right. And so rather than go along with this feud, because ultimately Kazaam just wants to grant 3 wishes and split, he gets on a bike and they start racing each other around Max's little hideout. And it gets to a point where Kazaam is about to run into a wall. Max finally gets concerned for him. And then the bike just starts doing this whole transformation thing. And you can really see Kazaam's powers become revealed at that point. And Max finally believes that he's actually what he says he is. And that was kind of a really cool reveal moment. Like, the bike starts turning gold. It's all fancy. You got this guy riding up the wall and into the ceiling while he's rapping, of course. and as a kid, like, I just remember that being such a cool scene. It was such a big, like, just eye-opener part of that fantasy story.
It was the moment kind of you were all waiting for as kids watching this movie. And I know me and you, Jonathan, watched this movie a lot. And a lot of kids our age did. Pappy, you're a little bit younger. Did this fall on your radar when you were a kid?
I'm quite a bit younger than both of you, actually.
I see how it is.
No, to be honest, I think this is the first time that I watched Kazaam.
Oh my God.
All the way through.
Shaq would be so angry with you.
I had seen parts of it here and there. Like I said, the part where he's showering was in the trailer, so that was burned into my brain. But no, this was not really on my radar.
I found a video of Shaq talking about Kazaam, and he really does not take kindly to the criticisms of this movie. This is a direct quote. "If you watch Kazaam as an adult, you should be ashamed of yourself." Well, he was basically saying that, like, this movie is for children. You have no place giving your adult perspective critique. Now, Pappy, that's just an argument that I absolutely hate, but what do you think about that?
I mean, as an adult, I thought seeing Shaq get on that little bicycle was pretty funny. I liked seeing that quite a bit. No, it's so stupid. You know what I mean? Because, like, but that's to say that, like, no movie for children does work for an adult. And that's just not the case, right? There's so many good, like, Pixar movies or movies for the whole family that someone can get something out of. Like, I guess if you want to make a movie purely for babies, you can do that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to not shit on it. It's bad.
Hey, I would just like to say, Shaq, or your publicists, or anybody, PR managers that are out there for Shaq, we would love to have you on our podcast to talk about your perspective on this. And I know you do tons of random things and are involved with other people's podcasts and events and things all over the country. Please join us. We would love to talk to you about this movie.
Shaq is not going to be on Big Dumb Movie. But if he is, we're going to review Steel. You ever see Steel? That's the Shaq superhero movie where he plays the DC character Steel. No? Oh, man. It's worse than this movie.
Can we just talk to him? Hey, man. Shaq, we still love you.
Yeah, you're cool. We appreciate everything you did for the Lakers. Truly.
Send us some pizza.
How long do I have to come up with the wishes?
Now would be highly advisable. Come on, let's go.
But I can't wait, can I? So, until I make those last 2 wishes, I own you, don't I?
Technically.
Welcome to my life. And here's a tip. What's the pointy shoes?
So their relationship becomes a little bit different at this point, Pappy, because at first Max didn't want him around. He thought he was just a random guy that was kind of stalking a kid. And I think Max saw how that might be a weird thing, right? But once Max realizes he's a slave owner, that's when he gets really excited, right, Pap?
So I own you.
Just for context, these are the words and terminology that they used in this movie.
Yes, true.
And how they had a black man as a genie slave and referred to him as that several times throughout this movie.
He
doesn't hold up today.
He's owned by Max, yes.
Yeah. A young 12-year-old white kid owning a massive mending.
I watched this on Disney Plus. I was pretty surprised. The only they put those warnings up for kids on the old stuff of Disney Plus. The only thing they called out was tobacco use. I'm like, that's interesting. Like, thought we got into a little bit of like Middle Eastern stereotypes.
Yeah, it's that smoking guy that's like, hey, what are you kids doing over there?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
There was the guy who put the cigarette out in his hand.
Yeah, what the fuck was he doing?
Another guy with bad teeth.
The relationship, though, Korey, it kind of mimics the Aladdin Disney movie, right? Where at first Aladdin's skeptical, and that one he tricks Genie. In this one, the Genie kind of tricks him into giving him a shitty first wish just to get it done. Then at this point, they become a little bit closer. And I think this is where they go to the club for the first time, right? Because he's hunting down his dad. And we get to see Shaq actually rap.
Max reveals that like he tries to wish for his mom and dad to get back together, and that's where Kazaam reveals that he can't do ethereal things. It's just everything's material, not ethereal.
Yeah, also like kind of an Aladdin thing.
Yeah, like you can't not compare this to Aladdin, but think about an Aladdin where you have Robin Williams doing all those like crazy voices like, I can't bring back the dead, and all this stuff. And here's just Shaq like, oh, I can't do ethereal.
I can't do ethereal, kid.
Hey,
come to Papa John's.
Shut up, Chuck. I've never done ethereal.
You're gonna grant me any 3 wishes I want, right?
Almost. There are a few provisos, a couple of quid pro quos.
Like?
Rule number 1, I can't kill anybody.
Yeah, so don't ask.
Rule number 2, I can't make anybody fall in love with anybody else. You little punum there. Rule number 3,
I can't bring people back from the dead. It's not a pretty picture. I don't like doing it.
Other than that, you got it.
I just wish my mom and dad would fall back in love.
Love? Kid, I told you, Kazaam don't do ethereal.
Ethereal?
Yeah, you know, love, hope, talking to God, raising the dead. Ethereal. But I am Mr. Material, and my stuff ain't too shabby. 3-story mansion, a sack of gold, a whole land of milk and honey, if that's still in.
One thing definitely though is that they have a pretty wide vocabulary within the genie's role throughout this movie. I think just to kind of accentuate his 5,000 years of existence, or however the fuck old he is. He's picked up a few words along the way, but it really expands what he can rhyme with and what he can speak to, which is kind of cool because Shaq doesn't know any of those words he said.
He insults him in some other language, maybe Nubian, and he tells Max's dad that he hopes he gets crabs or something like that.
Yeah, something like he said that he hopes that he gets bit by 1,000 fleas from a camel's nutsack or some shit. Yeah, it was weird.
I don't know if this is like the plot or the subplot, but Max is trying to reconnect with his biological father, and he finds out where his father is and what he does through looking at some divorce papers. So he makes his way to this, I don't know, what I assume is like a warehouse music studio / nightclub kind of environment. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's kind of got a weird setting, because it seems like it's in the middle of two other buildings that are not really open for business, or this specific one has been remodeled and made very fashionable and brand new. It looks like a restaurant, club, recording studio, and it's got other intentions besides just hosting as a nightclub.
Yeah, and Max does kind of reconnect with his dad, and his dad's at first happy to see him, but he's kind of like a sleazeball, right? So he that dynamic between the two of them kind of changes as things go on, and depending on the dad's mood.
Yeah. Well, the dad hadn't seen him in 10 years, so didn't even recognize who it was. Didn't even know that it was his own kid.
Yeah.
But it's kind of far-fetched, even if I didn't see my kid for 10 years and just randomly this kid that should be my kid's age shows up and that's the name that my kid is, I'm kind of going to be like, oh, wait a minute. What? Let me inquire upon this a little bit. Not hey, get the fuck out of here. This isn't an amusement park.
Yeah.
Especially when the dad was looking for him, you find out later. The mom says that he came back a few months ago. She just didn't tell Max about it.
Exactly.
While we're talking about the dad, I was going to ask you guys, since you're all significantly older than I am, what's the con here? I know it's there's this cassette tape and it's a bootleg. A bootleg of what?
I'll tell you right now, first off, I did not understand this subplot at all as a kid. Right. At all. But I get it now. Jonathan, maybe you can take it over, though.
Yeah, so what they were doing is they were having artists come in and perform at the club, and then rather than distribute the recordings of the live performances through the copyrighted studios, they were mass producing bootlegs and selling them for cash on the streets.
Oh.
And if you guys have ever been to any big city, which I know you guys live around LA, I'm sure you've been sold a bootleg. Well, tried to have someone sell you a bootleg CD. And it happens everywhere in Las Vegas now and everywhere in San Diego when I was there. Can't go to the mall without someone trying to pawn off a CD to you.
Dude, I used to know guys that made a living off of selling bootleg CDs and DVDs, and they were balling, dude, in high school time. A friend of mine was making CDs for $5 a CD, and you would just give him a list of 10 songs, and that's what you would get for $5. And he would come back, and you could either have the custom CD or you could have whatever was out there. Oh, Nelly came out with a new album. All right, $5. Here you go. And this kid was making thousands of dollars a month.
Damn.
And we know those guys saw hackers is what it was, when he was peddling his tapes out there, and that's where everyone got the idea from.
Yeah. I want to get a little bit into Shaq's rapping because it is a pretty large component of this movie. Alex, maybe you can help me out with this because he's kind of just pointed out at a nightclub concert environment by Spinderella, I think they say is the name.
Yep.
Who just tosses him a mic and is start rapping you.
And he has no idea what he's gonna do, and Max kind of like pushes him, you know, and then man, he hits him with that one line, "In your coffee, I'm the cream," and it was like everyone just started going wild. And then, of course, he hits him with the boombox, you know, and that was one thing that was a little weird because one of his rules was he couldn't reveal his magic to anybody except Max. I mean, that was a pretty magical moment.
Yeah, the rules are basically meaningless for the most part in this movie. They say they can't do things explicitly and then just do them later, so whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Who's the cutie over there? From another planet. Don't just stare, come over here and let me see you jiggy jam it.
Buddy, it's like trying to hide a tanker behind a sailboat.
What if they don't like me?
They really don't like you. The question is, what are you gonna do about it?
Get set for my tete-a-tete-tete.
Haha, you see what I got, so let me see what you could get.
The things I see would make you sweat. Kings and fools, they're all fish in my net. Cause I am Kazaam.
Ooh, man.
I'm more than I seem, you all are looking at your dream. In your coffee, I'm the cream. Gonna wish I get extreme.
We see Malik, who is 100% set up to be the villain based on the way he looks and talks. It's kind of sad, actually, you know? Like, they make this dude, like, just, like, look like such a scumfuck, right, Jonathan?
Well, yeah, but, I mean, he is. He's the money and the mastermind behind the whole bootleg project.
I just, you know, I feel like the casting sheet is like, we need like a greasy, gross looking like slob to be the villain.
He fits it. Fits the bill.
Yeah.
Mr. Malik, what a club. What a place. I mean, I knew it was going to be hot.
I always deliver more than I promise.
So do I. I got lots of clients.
Yes! As Romeo said before Juliet, grab 4 of your friends, will have a sextet.
I don't know. He's kind of making me sweat. I got your sweat. But can this man slam?
And if you girls are hungry,
and
let's green egg and ham it.
I'm looking for Mr. Mateo.
But he also, at this point, like, he recognizes that there's something different about Kazaam. That scene where the boombox starts shooting sparks out of it, they're not really sparks, and one lands on Malik's table and he tries to cover it up and grab it, but he notices that it's not a spark, it's something else. And I don't know, maybe it's his urban legend from wherever he originally was from, that he's picking up these hints that there's something different about Kazaam.
He concludes that Kazaam is a genie pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he comes to that conclusion in a way that I don't think I would have been able to.
Must be something with like the Nubian culture, you know, because I mean they're both obviously fans of Nubian goat eyes. So maybe amongst the Nubian world, there's, you know, a whole bunch of genies, or, you know, the folklore about the genies. Who knows?
Yeah, I found that scene like really kind of disturbing, where he starts choking down all the goat eyes and he's just like laughing and he's just like shoving these eyeballs in his face. Like, it's just really weird. Like, it was very odd, and I wasn't sure like how it actually fit into that whole scene.
Such a fucking cartoon character, Malik, you know? Like,
Yeah.
then, and that's part of what it is. He's just like maniacally eating Nubian goat eyes. Like, what the fuck is this?
Please, my favorite.
Nubian goat eyes?
The food of kings.
I haven't had these in 3,000 days.
You have old-fashioned taste.
I don't get out much.
That we can change.
Fun fact, you know, Shaq came out with his first recorded rap album in 1996.
How is it? I've always wondered.
It's clearly not that great because it didn't do very well.
Well, I believe he made an appearance on Aaron Carter's "How I Beat Shaq," right?
Yeah.
So he is no stranger to the music industry.
He did have two really, really popular producers, DJ Quick, which maybe you've ever heard of.
Yeah,
Korey?
for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and then another one. He's a New York producer called Mobb Deep.
Yeah.
The rapping in this movie is pretty bad. It's pretty cringe, I think.
It peaked at position 82 on the Billboard 200 in 96.
I like the backup singers though. They have like one little riff in there that's like pretty good that I like, but Shaq is not a good rapper.
No?
I don't think so. It's pretty bad.
It's a gimmicky show. Like it would be fun. Like if you were there and like Shaq just randomly came up onto stage and started DJing and rapping, like that would be a fun gimmick. Like, oh dude, I was there at this club in Vegas last night and I saw Shaq.
I have to know it was Shaq though. So that's part of it, you know? Like if it was a guy that I had never seen before, I would be like, this dude is not very good. What is he doing on stage?
But he's got a boombox that shoots sparks though, Korey.
I wouldn't mind the pyrotechnics, you know? I'd be like Malik. I'd try to catch one with my fork, I'm sure. But the rapping itself, not great. And I do want to talk about the rapping a little bit more because he does like a musical number with Max, right, Alex?
Oh yeah, that's probably the best part of the movie. That's where, as a kid, you were just super hyped. You know, we're hearing this random rap, and Max, you know, he's kind of pushing Shaq for the first time. Like, what are you gonna rap about? You know, like, how are you gonna tell your story? And Shaq's like, what do you know about rapping? And then Max spits that corny line, my name is Max, something hop on my BMX and make some tracks. It's like, that's whack, that's horrible.
I think that was a genuine reaction he had too. Like that was like probably Shaq's best acting in the whole movie, is when he's like telling Max how bad he is at rapping.
And what do you know about rapping?
I know a few things.
Yeah, right.
My name is Max, so get these facts. I'm on my heavy BMX and I make some tracks.
That's whack. That's horrible. Oh my God, that's
you
awful.
do better.
Oh yeah, and then, you know, the music kicks in, they all start getting into it, and then we get the classic, you know, the chorus line, we ain't men, we genie.
My name is Kazaam, I got the whole plan. So listen to the man, cause I'm the Sultan of Sand.
Is that it? Is that the whole deal? You want to be a hit? You better get real.
I did have this friend in 1000 BC. We discover a bevy of bathing beauties. Her bird looks to me and I says to he, why don't we jump in that old Euphrates?
So that's the whole story. That's all you gotta tell?
You got to listen to my rap from bell to bell. Those babies had rabies and we was in Hades cause we moved with the harem of the Prince of Acapella.
So it's you and her bird in 1000 BC.
Buried to our necks in sand like a sea by assaulting with the sword and a lock and a key.
Ooh, they're in deep. Will they ever get free?
So it's me and her bird in 1000 BC, praying to the gods.
And what do you see?
A man with the halo and a nasty decree. I'll save your butt, but you gonna serve me. I nod to her bird, he nods to me. And when the magic is over, we ain't men, we genie. Bob your head, Max.
So do you think that song still holds up for you, Alex?
Oh yeah, I still get excited when it comes on. It's over this past week I've watched the movie a couple times, and I'm forcing my 5-year-old son to watch it, and just randomly he'll be like singing it, we man, we genie, and he was like so annoyed with me, like coming up to him and saying we ain't men and waiting for him to say we genie. Yesterday he was like, I know we genie.
Leave me alone, Dad.
I don't get where we get this fucking we part from. You know what I mean? Like bro, like, you call yourself a slave owner now? Like the powers don't belong to you. Like you're not, there's no we in this business, man.
First he owned him, then he appropriated his culture.
Yeah.
Typical.
Now he's dressing like him. Has the little genie outfit.
So my whole thing with the music and the rapping, so I guess like the three guys who wrote it, Paul, Michael Glasser, Christian Ford, Roger Soffer, or whatever, like their initial like vision was for it to be like way more like intricate, but they ran into a bunch of problems like trying to get words that would like fit with Shaq's flow, if we want to call it that. And so they had to like do a bunch of rewrites to it, and it feels like 90s hip hop written by like white people who have no connection to hip hop, right? Like when your HR department does a rap to like tell you not to sexually harass people, like that's the vibe of this.
What a great example. Or like, you know, when you're at school, back when we were kids, you know, you're in class and like they play a video and it's meant to be like talking about like cells and like how like different parts of the cell interact with each other. But like one of the people like will describe it as like a rap, and then like they'll like, you know, cross their arms, like they'll cross their arms very deeply at the end of it. Like it's very like white people rap, which is like not real rap. It's like kind of more corny and like less. I think you're right. Like the writers like are coming through in this. It's not legit.
Have you ever seen the video Jesus Christ is my N-word? It's like an old white pastor and his wife, and they're on YouTube singing that. That's the level of like rap that is taking place in this movie.
Yes,
you know?
You're right. It's like
it's so bad.
It's like I'm gonna sing the hip hops, you know? Like,
yeah.
Well, but like what like a dumb way to go about it. You know what I mean? Because Shaq considers himself a musician. Like just be like, hey Shaq, work with one of your producer friends and write a song for the movie. Like the Safdie brothers didn't go to The Weeknd, Korey, and be like, hey, sing this song in Uncut Gems that we wrote for you. You know what I mean? It's stupid. Yeah.
Shaq wasn't really the best when it came to rapping, though. I don't know how much better he would have made it, because I mean his most notorious rap, I mean it was really bad, but it was the one after Kobe lost the championship to the Celtics, and it was the whole Kobe how's my ass taste. Like it was a horrible rap, and it was so bad that the sheriffs kicked it. He couldn't even be a part of the sheriff's department anymore. He got kicked out.
It was a Kobe Bryant diss track.
He was in a club like DJing or whatever, and then someone gives him a mic and then he starts rapping, and then it turns into like a diss track on Kobe. Yeah.
Better than me. That's like Kareem saying to himself, he better than me. Now stop, think about that. It ain't about that. It's about B.I.G., aka Big Shaq. Now that's the difference between first and last place. Kobe, nigga, tell me how my ass tastes. Okay, Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes. Okay, everybody. Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes. I'm a horse. Kobe ratted me out. That's why I'm getting divorced. He said Shaq gave a bitch a meal. I don't do that, because my name's Shaquille. I love him, but don't leave him. I got a vasectomy. Now I can't breed him. Kobe, how my ass tastes. Everybody. Kobe, how my ass tastes.
So it's the setup is very similar to Kazaam in nature. He's in a club, someone hands him a mic, except in real life, he immediately goes to Kobe.
Oh yeah, you can find it on YouTube still, literally just Shaq Kobe how's my ass taste, and it'll be the first thing that pops up.
So, provided a quick Google search here. There's a guy named Roger Soffer. He apparently says that the rap lyrics actually are one of the things I'm actually proud of, even though it's not fully in the movie as we wrote it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like they had it more complex, and they had to, like I said, they had 10 weeks to make this movie. So it's not like they had a lot of time to think about what they were doing. Just what works. Okay, shoot it. Let's go.
They said it was more like they were trying to write it more of like a Broadway style so that you got a musical performance out of it rather than holding it truer to the genre of rap and hip hop music.
That's asking a lot of Shaq to do like Hamilton, basically. Like you want him to.
Yeah, he can't go too slow, but he can't go too fast either. They had to find a good pace for him.
So, Alex, there's a problem with a tape, a bootleg tape, a cassette tape, I guess, that is worth $1 million, isn't there? Maybe you can kind of catch us up to speed with the story here.
Yeah, and as a kid, we really don't understand how this tape is so valuable. But as adults, then we find out, it's pretty much an illegal recording. The artists don't know anything about it, and they're just bootlegging it. And that's really the whole backstory to this club, at least what we find out about how it's funded. And so Max, he sees his dad getting into a fight with some random guy, and we don't even know what's going on. And
yeah, he sees his dad tune up some guy, right?
Yeah, he's like pushing him, he's about to knock him out, but Max is there watching him, and his dad has a conscience for once, I guess, and doesn't want to do it in front of him. So as his dad gains a conscience, he grabs Max and throws him out the back door of the club. Pretty much says, hit the bricks, kid, I gotta handle this. and Max, he's just pissed, and he runs in, to that crew, the guys who are punking him. And I guess because they beat his ass a little bit earlier, now they're being a little bit cool with him, and now they're just like, busting his balls. They're like, oh, what'd you find this in the trash? And Max, being the liar that he is, like, oh man, I was everywhere. I could go everywhere. I had the VIP passes. I got pulled. Just making himself sound like a badass. I got kicked out the club, as a 12-year-old kid. And he's then they're all like, ah, sure. And then for whatever reason, he says, I'm so hooked up in there, I'm so connected, I can go in there and get the tape from tonight's show and put it in your hand. No idea why the hell he would say that, because of course these guys took him seriously. You mean that, homie? And then instead of just walking up and getting the tape and putting it in their hand, now it's the heist. They're back in heist mode.
That's their default state, heist mode.
It's the state they want to live in. And so Max pretty much shows them where the back door is. Max doesn't even do anything. It's that, I guess the nerdy guy, I don't even know how to describe him, but the white guy who Max's dad was, talking shit to and about to knock out. And they go up, they pretty much knock him down, grab the tape and run off.
Yeah, they gotta beat one guy's ass and just take the tape off his person, right? When he's alone.
$1 million tape, and only one person is there around the situation. I don't understand that.
It's not very well thought through. Max is a child, but why not just get one of the bootlegs? I'm sure your dad will give you a copy for free once it's, being sold on the street or whatever black market mechanism that they're utilizing. I don't know, Max to say, I'm going to take this original tape and just give it to you guys just because, without coercion or anything, right? He's just yeah, I'm just going to give this to you guys for no reason whatsoever. I think that kind of exemplifies one of the problems with this movie is, the story behind this movie. Obviously there's a kid and he gets a genie, and the genie is Shaq. He's larger than life. He raps, whatever. He's got a gimmick. Who cares? But the story itself, as it starts to unfold, is just wrong. This is not the right story to tell with these people. Pappy, what do you think?
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And all of that, like I said, is trying to loosely connect to this theme of coming to terms and even accepting and loving a blended family. And none of this is about that. Like I said, it's confusing with all these. I had no idea what the con even was before you guys explained it to me. So.
Well, you have to have seen Kazaam 12 times in your life at least, and clearly we have.
I've only watched it twice for this podcast, but yeah, it's still, I don't know. And I would say though, Korey, after the heist, there's another part of this movie that I actually really, really like. It's one shot, but it's where Max is hiding underneath that concrete overhang thing, and the guy's footsteps come up to the top of it. It gives me Fellowship of the Ring vibes when the hobbits are hiding in that little hole and Nazgul comes over him. I actually really like the way it's lit.
Yeah, it's under a loading dock or something, but yeah, I know what you mean. And the guy's peering over looking for him. Yeah. I think it definitely draws a connection to Lord of the Rings, which came out many years after this. But I don't know, in 1996, I don't know if it would do much for you,
Well, I'm watching it, I'm that's how little craftsmanship there is in this movie, right? I see this one shot, I'm surprised. It's oh, this is kind of a cool shot. I hadn't thought that for the last 90 minutes I've been watching this at all. Not once.
Yeah. There could have been something longer lasting, I think, if the story was reworked completely in this movie with the original premise intact. I don't know, Space Jam, which is a piece of shit, is very fondly remembered by people. Right, and I think it's because that story itself works okay well enough. I don't like it, and that's a totally different story. But a lot of people do fondly remember it, Kazam, I don't think people remember as fondly in terms of like, oh, I remember the story of Kazam. It's like he finds a genie and then he reconnects with his dad and then they make a bootleg tape, but it gets stolen. So he has to find a way to get the tape back. Like, I don't think people remember those details like at all.
They just remember that it was a movie that Shaq was in.
Exactly.
No, they remember it's a movie that Sinbad was in. They don't even remember this movie existed.
Well, fuck them especially, you know? This takes us to our second wish, Jonathan. We have a genie here, who is a slave to Max after all, and Max gets 3 wishes. He makes great use of his second wish, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so Max goes back and finds his dad getting his ass beat by Malik and his goons because the tape is gone. Somewhere in all of this, the producer or the recorder or whatever you want to call the guy decided that he was going to quit. He had a little, he had a conscience. He didn't want to partake in copyright infringement and things of that nature. So
okay, this dude takes a hard stance against piracy.
Yeah.
Like more so than anyone I've ever met in my life. Like this guy is like, absolutely not.
You wouldn't download a car, would you?
I was hired to record a live
Yeah, that's all you want to write for.
Bootleg, a legit album, I quit!
Get over here. The last one of these tapes was worth $1 million.
Yeah, because piracy's a felony, Nick. I don't want to be involved.
4 years later, kids were ripping songs off of Kazaam and LimeWire like nobody's business, and this guy just didn't want to make a bootleg of one tape.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Like Kazam.
Oh, shit.
What the fuck? Anyway, go on.
I had Kazaam. Downloaded off Kazaam.
I had Shazam.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then when the tape disappears, because Max gave it to his little buddies, Nick is ultimately responsible for this tape. So he promises that he's going to get it back by midnight. I think Max really understands the degree of him fucking up and getting rid of the tape to the other little Puerto Rican poppies. So he wishes for the tape.
So I guess that makes a second one, right?
Yeah, and Kazam's out on a date with that girl, Asia, at the time.
Yeah, the most meaningless subplot in the whole movie.
Yeah, well, I think the sub of that was so that Malik could try to get some sort of concrete evidence that Kazaam is a genie.
He told her to find his secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't like it at all.
No, it's super unnecessary.
Find out if this man is magic.
Yeah, super unnecessary.
With your vagina.
But the devil's magic right there. So anyways, somehow with Kazam's magic powers, Max shows up in his glass of water and then ends up on the table at the restaurant, and it's such a weird, like, unnecessary situation. Like, if Kazaam can just hear Max talking, why didn't he just grant the wish real quick? Like why did he have to? Yeah, like why did he have to bring him through space and time, through a fucking
create a water
glass?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. He could just do it remotely. But it's funny though, because like that effect, which you don't seem to like very much, that and some of the things that happened earlier with like the flying French toast and Shaq like cleaning out his ears with like the magic towel and taking a shower in Max's room. Those are some of the things that I mostly remember from this movie. I think they're heavily featured in the trailers, like, his kind of like magic gags, but he doesn't do a lot of them. But they need some of them, right? They need to they can't just have him be a guy all the time. Yeah,
I agree 100%. I didn't find that at this point it was a relevant trick. I think they could have done that scene a little bit different. I don't think they needed to just have this big dramatic scene where Max comes out of a water glass. But I agree with the other things. Like, I think Pappy mentioned earlier the part where Kazaam was up in the sky, starry sky ceiling that Max built. I thought that was pretty cool. And then like there was the part where he mentioned, oh, like, you know, Virgo wasn't there yesterday, so are the stars changing on their own? Did Kazaam change that? Just kind of quirky little stuff like that. It was really funny. It was entertaining.
And the reason why he didn't want him to waste his wish is because Kazaam was actually liking his life at that point, because he was like, he takes him back to the recording studio or whatever, and he doesn't want him to make his wish, or well, he doesn't want him to waste his wish, is what he said. And Max is like, why don't you want to make my wish? All you were trying to do is get me to make my 3 wishes. But I think Kazaam's actually liking his life.
Yeah, he kind of like rises to become the hottest rapper in New York, like on like a almost overnight basis, right? Like the public calls him, I think, Class K. Are they referring to him when they say that?
Yeah. That's his rap name.
And like he's got like shows, like he's doing live performances, and there's like a band like all ready to go. Like the backup singers know what they're doing.
Yeah, he's really trying to hook up with Asia. Like,
he is.
Dude, he's been stuck in a lamp for 3,000 years. Like he's trying to get some action.
It's time,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's ready.
Yeah, he's a little backed up.
Did you notice that his band, there's like a guy playing guitar and then there's someone playing violin? It's just like they got people with instruments and put them on stage. It's fucking insane.
They like threw Oingo Boingo up there with them or something.
Just you got an instrument, get on stage. You gotta get this fucking shoot under wraps.
Hey, go get some props from the closet.
Yeah.
Pick anything, whatever instrument you can find.
So Pappy, he made a second wish. He's got the tape. What does he do with it?
So his dad picks him up from school, I think, right? And this is kind of a sad scene with the mom too, like running after him and stuff. And the dad's got some really bad vibes towards the kid at this point. And he drives him up the block, and Max reluctantly, like sadly, hands him over the tape. And this is like, I don't know, not to bring up the other Aladdin as much, but it's like the same emotional valley, right, that you get like when Aladdin's lying to Jasmine and he has a falling out with the genie. Now he's like having a falling out like with his dad and with the genie. It's, I don't know, it's not great.
You know, the other way to look at it is Max's dad was finally really being honest to him about who he is and how much of a piece of trash that he is. You know, he's like, look, man, I'm not a good person. Like, just, you know, give me the tape and beat it, kid.
It's like he's not a good person, but like it's almost like in the safest possible way. Like what is so bad about Max's dad? Well, one, he obviously abandoned him and stuff, but like in his personal life. And I think it's that he makes bootlegs, right? Like he's so like well immersed in the criminal underworld of bootleg cassette tapes. Ooh, like look at this criminal, you know? Like they can't have him be like a drug dealer or like anything worse, or like, you know, a mobster shooting people or anything. It's a kid's movie after all, so it's so funny that they have to pick like the safest lane to go down.
Hey, dude, Metallica will tell you it's a really serious offense.
Oh, that's right.
Dude, Metallica are the ones that single-handedly like shut down Napster.
Yeah. Fucking A.
Hey, did you catch real quick? Did you catch Max's best friend that was out there, kind of like asking him if he was okay?
Dude, yeah,
that was literally what Korey looked like in like 5th grade, man.
That was the director's son, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, like that could have been like us, like 5th grade, 6th grade.
Does that make you Max?
Yeah, unfortunately.
You look nothing like Max, though.
No, but you look like the other kid.
Jonathan's teeth are perfect. Thank you very much. Always were.
Did I look like that other kid?
You could have played that role for sure.
Right. And now as a man, I want to play guy in the alley saying, what are you doing over there, kids?
Yeah. No, but you could have been the rollerblade wearing, Jinko wearing jean guy.
I actually couldn't afford Jinko, so I had to get like the rip-off, like no-name brand versions of wide jeans. So.
Yeah, I had to get the ones from Kmart.
Yeah,
the ones
like
that are
that.
right there on Channel Islands.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah.
So I think Malik has kind of figured things out, right? The jig is up with Malik. the greaseball himself. And what is he trying to do here? He wants to take the genie for himself and make wishes. Now, Pappy,
right?
You're a grown man. You're younger than us, obviously, as you've pointed out many times. But
significantly, all right.
If you got Kazaam, a genie, would your wish to be to have all the money in the world?
What a stupid fucking wish. Like, and the kid like explains like inflation to him like on the spot. He's like, dude, did you ever take I skip school all the time and I understand economics better than you, Malik. Like, I don't. No, that would not be my wish.
At least he came up with a good solution. He's like, and I'll still take all the money in the world and I'll give some of it back.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I wish for communism.
Your third wish will be, quote, I want Malik to have all the money in the world.
You see, I wish for that, but you can't do that because if you do that, the rest of the world goes broke. Money isn't worth anything.
Then I'll take all the money and give some of it back. Make my wish now.
I can't just say, hey, Kazaam, I need your help, and it'll appear right in front of me. I can't just say, Kazaam.
They should have just, thought about what they do in real life, how they just print money, like it's nothing and it's fake anyways. So shouldn't have asked for all the money in the world, just some super crazy astronomical number.
Yeah, at least like just a large portion of money, please.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's too bad too, because like I think the original Aladdin, you can kind of like monkey's paw it, right? Where like he wishes for all the money in the world, and he gets crushed by like the weight of like 100 billion coins falling on him or something. Like, I don't know.
Hey, that would be cool. That would still create a lot of economic disaster, but I think that would be like cool to see on screen.
Hey, what if Bezos and Musk got a genie? Maybe that's why they're so rich.
They would ask for each other's money. Yeah, there can be only one.
That explains Elon Musk's hairline. That was wish number 2.
Yeah.
That's right there with LeBron's hairline restoration.
And even in Max's number 1 wish, had Shaq not saved him, he would have fallen to the big old stack of pizza.
Oh, was that pizza or was that pancakes?
I thought it was pizza. I mean, it looked real huge.
I thought it was pizza.
Oh my God, I thought that was a stack of pancakes this whole time.
I'm with you on the pancakes.
Oh, okay.
If you've ever been to Hash House A Go-Go, that is a place that the pancakes are so huge I could totally buy those being their pancakes.
Yeah, that's where they got them.
Alex, you're in Vegas, right?
Yep, I am.
Baby stacks.
Oh, yeah. Need those baby stacks.
Yep. That's the spot.
While we're talking about this kind of shit, I fucking hate the product placement in this movie. It's so annoying. Like at one point, Shaq's just like drinking a Pepsi with the label like facing the camera. Like even
it's
like
very Wayne's World. Yeah.
Like, mentioning like the Jaguar. Like I guarantee Jaguar probably like paid for that. Like they say the name of the car like 4 times in a row. It's so stupid.
But you'd think they would show it, right? But I guess that costs money to get the actual car there.
Shaq was just like, just drop it off at my place. You don't need to take it to the set.
Just mentioning the name and model of the car probably made people go, oh, what was that? I mean, the internet was so not the place of research at the time. People probably drove to a Jaguar dealer to go see what the fuck is a Jaguar Black XKE. Yeah, that one. Oh, it's a $95,000 car. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, on the showroom it says as mentioned in Kazaam.
Yeah, that was part of the marketing plan.
Got that kid in the commercial and everything. Things kind of become, I guess, more typical of a 90s kids movie at the end here. Like, it becomes a little bit Suburban Commando-y, right, Jonathan? Like, it's basically, like, action scene time, right? We're deep in the 3rd act. We have established our greasy villain, Malik, who's just pure evil. Shaq is the hero of the story. Max is now an innocent bystander, or I guess damsel in distress of sorts. So Shaq has to show up and start punching faces.
Yeah, there was a lot that happened really quickly at this, 3rd part of the movie here. Max was super depressed. He really wishes that he had a second chance for his dad because he realizes that his dad was a piece of junk. Kazaam says, look, man, there's a difference between genie and djinn. I'm not a djinn, so I can't do...
Genies are real, Jonathan. Yeah. Djinn is in the land of make-believe, sir.
Well,
there you have it.
There it is.
Kind of bugs me. It's kind of like when someone says in a movie, "This isn't a movie." It's like that same mentality to that line that he gives about Jim being fantasy. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like,
It only exists in fairy tales, and I don't believe in fairy tales.
Yeah, I'm a genie after all.
Yeah, bitch. You know, we get some real dastardly villainy stuff from Malik. He steals the boombox. He kicks Max down an elevator shaft. Like, all these dudes are laughing and like joking around, having a good time that they kicked this kid down an elevator shaft. Like, bro, you guys literally just murdered a child and you're laughing. Like, these guys are fucked up, you know?
Okay, so let's pause there for a sec. Max gets kicked down an elevator shaft. Now, you're absolutely right about the reactions, right? I feel like some of the villains might do what their boss says, but just be silent or somber about it.
Right.
In this case, it's more cartoonish, right? They're more mustache twirlers, these guys. They kick him down a shaft and laugh hysterically about it like Dr. Evil or something. But Alex, I think you had something you wanted to bring up on the topic of Max getting murdered.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys noticed. We talked about his shitty wardrobe in the beginning. Did you notice how his wardrobe in the final day is the exact same as that very first day? The shirt's all super dirty as well, too, so it's not like it was even washed. My whole theory about this is him falling in the original building. It's kind of like a Jacob's Ladder scenario where he really almost died, and this entire 4-day span is really just him playing out something in his head. And then when he's actually rescued by the stepdad, you know, that's when he finally comes to. But he's wearing the exact same outfit. That was always the thing that tripped me out, because the outfit's super stupid. It's dirty. It's got like, I don't know, like shit stains down the middle of it on his chest and his stomach. I don't even know what it is. It's like it's white and brown and off color, and it's like really weird. Nobody would put on a dirty shirt like that to wear to school. Like
the fishing vest as well, right?
And the fishing vest, like horrible decision. So that's what I think is his whole 4 days, because obviously genies aren't real, you know. And but to him, maybe in his mind, that was the way he got out of this whole crazy ass scenario and everything that happened over the next 4 days.
Okay, yeah, I like that theory. I love these fan theories. I mean, it's certainly makes more sense than some of the things we get. Right, and more plausible at least. Like, again, Max getting he is dead, right? Like, did I miss that? Like, he did, in terms of like the story, he was dead for a time.
I thought he was dead,
right? And then Shaq brings him back to life.
Yeah, exactly.
But I missed the part where he like brought him back to life. Besides just like carrying him, I thought he was just carrying him, mourning over his body, and then like all of a sudden Max just kind of like wakes up.
Well, he goes into some like Nubian chant or something.
So
I got really bored with this movie.
Yeah.
That's the end. So like, I had a hard time paying attention.
We'll backtrack a little bit, because Max did make his third wish at some point before he dies, right, Pappy?
Yeah, and that was for his dad to have a second chance. But the genie said he couldn't do it because he's not a djinn.
His third wish was to have his dad get a second chance, like at life, right? Like,
yep, wish he could start over and have a second chance.
That does play into like what follows, right, Pappy?
Well, it's like there's so many different ways that you could have like materially done that. Like, you know what I mean? He could have like his dad wins a lottery ticket or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, oh, now he has a new start. But like I said, it doesn't make any sense because. I said the movie should be about him connecting with his new stepdad, right? I don't understand why this wish in particular is a wish pure of heart, which makes Shaq become ethereal. The lore gets so thick here, too, at the end with everything that's happening.
Hey, like I said in the beginning, it was just a PSA for a do something nice for strangers day.
Right.
You know?
Kindness, pass it on.
And maybe it was someone who they had an estranged father or something and just about forgiving the dad that you never knew or whatever. But it's funny how his second chance is his dad going to jail.
Yeah, he wishes for his dad to get a second chance. He goes to prison and he gets like the Miklo second chance. Alex. He's gonna go to the top of the chain in the gang that he joins.
That would be an awesome Kazaam part 2.
Yeah.
Probably not, but I like it.
He joins Leonda, and that's it. Yeah.
And he somehow becomes the leader.
I want to speak to a big dumb movie tradition at this point really quickly. There's a scene where they were fighting. Kazaam was kicking ass. They end up down in the locked like a chain link fence cage, I guess, where they keep all the bootleg tapes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the guys got kicked and landed on top of an electrical transformer.
Oh man.
And it like literally just like blew up and sparks everywhere and shit went flying all over the place. Totally would not happen in real life. Like all that would happen is that guy would fall on there. It would probably dent the lid just a little bit. But let's say, for example, it did actually dent into that transformer casing enough to like create a short.
Okay.
All it's going to do is trip the breaker that it was attached to. Those sparks and the explosion and all that bullshit would never fucking happen.
You know where they got those moves from? From old school WWF. They fall on something random and then just sparks fly out of everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. It's so ridiculous. I think this is like 4 movies in a row now that I've been on that I had to debunk their stupid electrical theory.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing the the electrician perspective to the podcast. It's always appreciated, Jonathan.
You're very welcome.
Of how these things would not go down. But I mean, as the movie's ending here, Kazaam, Shaq, he finds Max's body, which again was tossed down an elevator shaft. And he gets like very emotional. He has his like very sad Oscar moment of the movie. And honestly, it's unintentionally, I think, the funniest part. What did you think of it, Jonathan?
It was kind of a mixed scene right here, in my opinion, because you have this scene where Kazaam finally confesses that in 5,000 years, like he's never had a friend. He's always been, enslaved or just only treated as a genie and really just felt used and abused and is having some deep psychological issues over that. So he finally made a friend with Max. And like, I don't know how, because Max literally didn't treat him any better than anybody ever has in the past 5,000 years. So why is he befriending like this little kid, It didn't make sense to me. So, and then what happened was when Max woke up, Kazaam basically realized that he made his own wish for Max to be alive and that he made his own wish come true. So it was kind of a strange thing that happened, because it really wasn't Max's wish to be back alive. It was the genie's own wish to bring him back to life. And then that freed him to become a djinn.
And that was like a factor of him like elevating to the next plane in being a djinn, but also he chooses to like kind of live as a man as well, right? Like
right. But that also is what allowed him to grant that ethereal wish of giving the dad the second chance, because he was no longer genie.
I'll give him a second chance, all right? Cop shows up.
Yeah,
Sir,
right.
you need to come with us.
Yeah, you're going to go to jail and lock your shit up for 10 years, bud.
He's still working out the ethereal kinks. It's new to him.
It's like some people, that's where their second chance really is, though, is they have to be removed from what they're doing. Go lock them up for a few years and let them come out and go, all right, I've reevaluated what I got going on and I'm ready to shoot the straight and narrow here.
I guess that's not super ethereal. That's just regular American justice system.
That's just called being responsible for your shit. Yeah. I mean, okay, but Nick also at this point says like, hey, when I get out and I come back, like I'd like to be present in your life. Like, he realizes like, okay, look, I fucked up and I haven't been there for my child, and I should be. And I think he's down for the co-parenting at that point. But then again, people going to jail say a lot of shit. So
back in the 90s, they were throwing the book at you for piracy. So who knows? He might have gotten a life sentence for that. So may have just been a lot of flapping the gums.
Life sentence, still in jail.
Dude, and that's what's so stupid about Shaq's like, oh, you can't criticize this movie, it's for kids. It's like, okay, this movie for kids ends with that complex explanation of like the criminal justice system, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, you gotta serve your time. Like, you can't just have like a happy scene of them at Christmas like a year later or something. Like, I don't, it's so stupid.
It was happy for Shaq, dude. He's walking away with a nice piece of ass.
Sure was, yeah.
Then you see the worst clip ever. You see the snaggletooth, and I just wonder what the director was saying. Like, come on, give me that grin, give me that grin.
More tooth, more tooth.
Let's get it at the worst 45-degree angle from below so that we can see max anglage of that fucking tooth, man. Oh, and don't forget to give him a hot chocolate.
Fucking Max Ponderosa.
What is his deal with hot chocolate? Like, he had all the goodies like on his first wish, and he's like, hey, where's the hot chocolate?
Yeah, the first thing he wants after being rescued from death is a cup of hot chocolate.
On a hot, sunny New York summer day.
Yeah. Like, I just got rescued from a fire, but I want to have hot chocolate. You're like, dude, give me some fucking water, bro. Give me an ice water. Like, you know, give me a quarter water.
Like
hook
the
me
penguin,
up.
I want a nice cup of ice water. Oh my god. Real quick, we forgot to mention this, and this will kind of blend into final thoughts because I think we're about wrapping up here. Shaq takes Malik, he turns him into a basketball, and slam dunks him. Pretty cool.
He didn't break it though. Like, it would have been a lot cooler if he would have broke that somehow. Just tearing like he was tearing down the backboards.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think Malik deserved far worse than that. Like, I think he definitely should have been going to jail. So maybe if he stayed and burned up in the fire, that's cool.
Does he have to live his life as a basketball if he survives the fire?
I feel like in Shaq / Kazaam's heart, it would only be a temporary thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It reminds me of two other like basketball related references in movies. One of which is a movie called Double Team, which is a 90s Jean-Claude Van Damme / Dennis Rodman team up movie where those are the two heroes. They have to like drop into like the enemy's like warehouse or lair or at some point in the movie. And Dennis Rodman, who's like, I think the tech guy, he like drops them out of an airplane in like a giant basketball. So they're like in a giant rubber ball and it falls down because of course there has to be a basketball reference in the movie, right?
Of course.
And then another one is Steel. I think it's Steel anyway. Hopefully I'm not getting this movie wrong, which is the next Shaq movie that came out, I think the following year, where he plays again that DC superhero Steel, where he has to make a free throw at the end to save the day, if I remember correctly.
If he made the free throw, that's totally not real.
I was gonna say that's actually pretty funny.
I believe he did make it. Like earlier in the movie, he misses a free throw, and then later in the movie, he makes it.
Well, it's totally like a ploy on Shaq because he was an atrocious free throw shooter.
Right, but it's just dumb, right?
Yeah,
like to have to
It
work
really
that
is.
into the movie. Like there has to be a basketball thing.
Yeah.
You can't have the basketball guy without a basketball thing. He has to
Right.
make the free throw. Get it?
Wasn't there another one in like Space Jam when they turned somebody into a basketball?
Yeah, Michael Jordan. But that whole movie's about basketball, so that's a different story.
No, I know, but I was speaking of like just forming somebody
The same
into
effect?
a basketball. Yeah, doing that same exact.
Yeah, the
effect,
Monstars turn MJ into a ball, and then
Yeah.
his voice gets really high, and I hate that effect. And then they dunk him or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I think it works when it's the bad guy getting turned into the basketball.
I fucking hate it, dude.
I hate it so much too, Corey. I think that's so stupid. I don't know. This movie is like all about Shaq. You know what I mean? Like it's all about the things that Shaq does, like dunking a basketball or rapping. And like I love Shaq, don't get me wrong, but at that point it's like this is Shaq first, the movie second with this choice.
Let's get into final thoughts before we do ratings. Alex, you have any final thoughts?
Well, someone said it earlier. If you've watched this movie as an adult or something, you should be embarrassed. I'm probably embarrassed about a dozen times or so watching this movie as an adult. It just brings me back to childhood. And I mean, it's one of those movies that's so dumb. It's just cool to have on in the background. So as much as even Shaq probably hates this movie, because I saw he was on Jimmy Kimmel a couple years ago and Jimmy asked him about this and he totally doesn't like the movie. But It's a classic. It's got its place on Disney Plus and should be watched by kids.
It's funny because he seems to like flip-flop. I watched a video called like All the Times Shaq Talks About Kazaam, and it's just like various interviews or moments where it's brought up, and sometimes he defends it and sometimes he rejects it. So like I think even he's on the fence. He's even like talked about Kazaam 2 at some points, and then later on another interview said there will never be a Kazaam 2. So I mean, who knows? Jonathan, do you have any final thoughts before ratings?
Yeah. What do you think the targeted audience range was for this? Like, what age group?
8 to 12.
Yeah,
probably.
Mm-hmm.
Pappy, what do you think?
Yeah, like 5 to preteen. I don't know.
Yeah,
Babies.
for sure. I don't think that there's any way that this holds up for today's kids. Any kid over like probably 8 years old, I don't think it holds up for them. It's not. There's not enough entertainment value. There's not enough based on today's standards of action and storyline and things that get the attention and engagement of that age group. It's sad to see that this terrible, awful movie just still wouldn't make it today.
No, this movie, it's so hard to understand what's happening in the greater scheme of things in the mind of a child, I think. But before I go more into that, Pappy, do you have any final thoughts before ratings?
Just 2 quick ones. At the very end of the movie, when Max is like to his stepdad, "You coming or not?" And his stepdad's like, "You talking to me?" Dude, that makes my fucking skin crawl. I hate that part so much. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It just, ugh.
Can we go home now?
Sure we can.
Hey! You coming or what?
Talking to me? Okay.
Some guy walks by and he's like, "Hey, I'm walking here." Another guy goes, "Forget about it." And then it ends.
Exactly.
Dude, what kind of a loser firefighter just like leaves the scene? Dude, like the building is still burning. Like you're still on the clock, buddy, you know? And like every firefighter that I know would have been there trying to get as many hours as possible because they really rack up that overtime.
Just there for the one kid, Jonathan. Give him a break.
Oh God.
You talking to me?
Dude, he doesn't like that kid that much.
I do like that he wants to get him a basketball or a football to straighten him out. At one point, too, that's his parenting style. But then I hate also what I thought was the most unintentionally funny part is when Shaq is like Sun Shaq, the Jinn, you know, he's like that floating head thing, like almost like the Wizard of Oz or something. And he's like, "In our hearts, we are all Jinn." It's just it's so stupid. I laughed out loud.
I'm Jin, and I'm free.
No! Kazaam! You can't!
You don't need me anymore.
Don't go!
In our hearts, we're all Jin, and we're all free.
Kazaam! You can't! Don't leave me!
The power is in your heart.
It's true, though, if you think about it, Pappy.
Yeah,
you ever thought about it?
If you believe, you can achieve.
If in our hearts we are all Jinn.
I have literally never had that thought.
Like sometimes I'll just be like at work and I'll be really stressed out because, you know, the workload's really high and we're always understaffed. And then I'll just be like, you know what? In our hearts, we're all Jinn.
Yeah, we can do this.
Yeah. Well, I don't arrive at that conclusion. I just kind of leave it at that. Yeah. We are all Jinn. Okay.
That's all you need.
That's cool enough. And, yeah, it's a little mystical. I'll keep it at that and move on. I can tell Jonathan wants to defend that line. We are all Jinn. He's
No.
No. How dare you
I don't
talk
want
about
anything to do with it. There is no defense for this.
Okay, we are going to go into ratings. Pappy, I'm going to go back to you. On any rating scale you want, what are you going to give Kazaam?
I'm going to give this 1 out of 3 wishes, which is about all the kid really got granted for him. And I think I'm still even being generous at like a 3 out of 10 score. I am with you, Jonathan. This movie's actually kind of slow and boring a couple times. Like I said, compared to like the Robin Williams manic genie performance, which you can't help but compare it to. It's not even in the same fucking ballpark. The only reason I would ever watch this again, I guess maybe I should say, would be to see Shaquille O'Neal, right? Like, that's the thing about Shaq is he's not good in this movie, but he still is insanely likable. I mean, he and the stepdad are the only two like likable characters. And like I said, they gave the stepdad the last name O'Neal. So I feel like there may have been some ego going on for executive producer Shaq, but I fucking love Shaq. It is cool to see him like in a younger, like, you know, mid-90s Shaq, a lot skinnier Shaq. But there's no reason to watch this as an adult. 3 out of 10.
So Shaq was right. We should be ashamed of ourselves.
I'm not ashamed of myself, but maybe a little bit.
Feel so dirty. Alex, from Silver Screen Breakdowns, on any rating scale you want, what are you going to give Kazaam?
Well, I'm giving it 4 out of 5 genie lamps, and it's because we're rating this on the scale of like the big dumb movies, you know, that we love. So I mean, I'm not, you know, comparing this to, let's say, Pulp Fiction or, you know, some real great movies in the 90s, but it's one that can always randomly be on in the background. You need bad movies on in the background sometimes because, like, you know, you can't always be distracted from whatever you're doing. So
it helps you enjoy life.
4 out of 5 genie lamps.
Wow, that is extremely generous. I'm going to go next. Interesting, because I remember this movie being worse than it is. So that's an interesting change, right? I'm not usually accustomed to that. I was like, okay, this is going to be completely awful. And it was just mostly really bad. So my memory of it is far worse than it actually is. In most cases, I remember a movie being better, like Angels in the Outfield or Little Giants. You know, I think kind of fondly of those, and then I rewatch them and they're not as good as I remember. This one is not as bad as I remember. So I'm going to give it a D- instead of an F. I think this movie has many problems as a movie, but the one I'm going to focus in on is the story is, I don't want to say unnecessary, but like it's just a strange choice to go with this story of piracy and like underground music world. I guess they wanted to find a way to get like Shaq rapping in the movie, so they had to find a way to make the crime element work with his dad, who was clearly going to be painted as a criminal the whole time. It's just, the story is not something that a child can understand. Shaq says this movie is for children. Explain that then. Like, then why is the writing meant for clearly an older audience when everything that occurs on screen is meant for a child? So that's where I leave that. It's a movie I don't like very much, obviously, but could be worse, I think. It's not as bad as Theodore Rex. I'll give it that. Jonathan, you're up.
Wow. Oh man, I don't come up with my ratings until after we reviewed, and I like to listen to everybody else's reviews also. And I'm actually going to end up rating this probably a little higher than I anticipated. I'm going to go with 2.5 out of 5 Nubian goat eyes here. I agree with everything that all three of you guys had said. Pappy, just as you do, I love seeing Shaq. He's entertaining no matter what he does. Even if it's dumb or ridiculous, he's always fun to watch. The movie fucking sucks. It's not good.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's looks like it could have been filmed in like a couple of days between basketball season. I don't know. There are problems with the plot and the subplots and the plots. And, you know, like the story was just way too complex for what this movie was. It's not engaging. I was bored. I'm not ashamed to have watched it.
Take that, Shaq.
Yeah. So boo. And I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it again. If my kids wanted to watch it for some weird reason, I probably would let them and I'd watch it with them. But I'm definitely not going out of my way to bring this up ever again.
All right. So before we close up, I want to take this opportunity to allow some of our guests here to shout out their podcasts. Alex, I know you do a few things. Why don't you talk about what it is you do and tell people where they can find you?
So the movie podcast that we have is Silver Screen Breakdowns, and if you go to ssbpod.com, that'll get you to the podcast. We're also on YouTube. What we do, it's pretty much like watching movies with your friends. You know, I try to get a bunch of scenes from the movie where we pull it up, we're watching it, and just a lot of hanging out. And kind of the opposite of this, where we're not going the dumb movie route. I mean, we've broken down Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Blood In, Blood Out. Started off with a little bit of like the crime genre. Been fun so far. We're only a couple episodes in. Appreciate you guys having me here because I've been listening to you guys for a while now. And the other podcast, the one that I've been having going on for 3 years, is a fantasy football podcast. So if you're into fantasy football at all or fantasy sports, anything like that, if you go to hustlerpod.com, that'll get you to everything that I got going on in the fantasy football world. And then fantasyfootballhustler.com, if you just want to follow me on social media, you go there and literally links to everywhere on that site.
Awesome. Definitely check out Alex's pods here. I listened to the Blood In, Blood Out podcast recently, and an epically long podcast, just like the movie is epically long. You guys really went into detail, which is something that I like on the podcasts that I listen to. So check that out. But also joining us again for the 10th time, maybe. I don't know. I just made that number up. Pappy, why don't you tell people where they can find you and your podcast?
Yeah, I guess I forgot to mention this is the Big Dumb Movie Debate Champion, Pappy.
Yeah,
so go back and listen to that episode. Yeah. No Steve here, so I couldn't rub it in his face. I noticed he's been ducking me, though, since the debate. Kind of weird, Steve. Where have you been?
He doesn't listen to these, by the way.
I am super excited to listen to the Jackie Brown Silver Screen Breakdown, Alex. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, it's a podcast called Spoilers. Spoilers with an explanation point. You'll probably see it suggested, whatever app you're listening to this to on down below. But make sure you leave a review or a like or a comment. Like, engage with this episode, Spoilers, Silver Screen Breakdowns, you know. Help us out. It's a lot of work to pull these together. So leave a little like on this video or a comment.
Awesome. Thank you, Pap. If you, the listeners, want to write in, you can email us at bigdumbmovie@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram. Follow us there, Big Dumb Movie Podcast. Follow us on YouTube, etc., etc. Subscribe to us, listen to us, and check out some of our older episodes. You could always find a movie that you love that we will absolutely shit on this podcast. So that's something we do regularly. Right, Steve? Oh, I'm sorry. Right, Jonathan?
Yeah, you know, honestly, as much as we love to shit on movies, we love to actually love movies also.
It's true. We did love the last movie we reviewed by the same director. Do you remember what it was?
No.
The Running Man.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, the same director.
Yeah. Wow. That's impressive. Yeah, so it doesn't always have to be a dumb movie or a terrible movie. We love reviewing great movies also.
Yeah. Maybe the next one we do, that'll be the route we go. But I want to thank you all for listening. We appreciate you. We love you. And good night.
If you watch Kazaam as an adult, you should be ashamed of yourself. The movie was for children, but because it was me, the Shackster, you get all these Siskel and Ebert type guys trying to critique the movie.